All right, in this video, I'm going to show how to import the examples that I often show in class. So we're like in week 3 now, so let's get a few of them in here. So I will, for every week, I will create a Unity package that you can import. And it comes with quite a bit of stuff here. This has some examples of immersive scenes, and I'm just going to get that. Yeah, so I'm going to do that. Get that in here and make sure that we have now an animation in here. We have scenes, immersive scenes. We have my audio scene in here with that mysterious ball in the air. And we also have like various starter scenes. So here, this is like a scene with some basic interactions. Now, I am using the new input system. So when you import this project, you will see, hey, there's an error here. I don't know what the input system is. And we'll have to resolve this. And so we'll do that by going through the package manager, going not in project, but Unity registry, and looking for the input system. And we are going to install the input system. That's the new input system. And the new input system has better input mappings. It's better to work with controllers, and also is actually required for the AR VR. Well, mostly for the mixed reality stuff with the Meta SDK. And yeah, so it'll ask you, this project is using the new input system package, but the native platform backends for the new input system are not enabled in the player settings. This means that no input from native devices will come through. Do you want to enable the backends? And you should say yes here. Otherwise, you have to do it later. But just say yes, and it'll quickly activate it and reload Unity and the project. And then it's interesting. You can already see in it now what used to have errors before now seems to be fine. It knows the input system now, and it also knows mouse and mouse current. If for some reason you get an exception and it doesn't know what mouse is, mouse.current, that means that the new input system isn't working in your project yet. And so let me see that we actually have it here now. So now I should be able to run this scene. And in this scene, I basically just give you like a little guy, and you can walk around in the game view by right-clicking and then dragging in the game view, similar to how you can do it in the editor always. I just like made sure that you can do this now in any scene. And so the first thing we'll do is actually create a prefab out of this guy. We're going to call this the player camera. And we're going to go to project and create a new folder here if you don't have it yet, called prefabs. And we're going to package this player camera as a prefab. Now, the advantage is that when I create a new scene, you can immediately benefit from having kind of like this guy who sits at 0y, and then, well, actually, would put him a little higher so that sits like probably 1.6 higher then. And that is kind of like sits like on the floor now. We're gonna have a floor. We're gonna create a plain floor. Okay. We're gonna reset that to 0, 0, 0. Now this guy sits like nicely in the middle there. Okay. And my examples also then come with like a material and even a skybox if you want. So now your scene could look as just like mine, but yeah. All right, so the issue that we have right now is we have two cameras in the scene. So when you start this, you can move this guy, but it's like third person, not first person, because you still have the other camera in the scene. So delete it and move the directional light below so your camera is the first thing. Save your scene if you want to. My new scene. And then you have it working, play it. And so now you can walk around in first person using this, and always have the prefab to make things easy for you. Okay, so in week 1, so you go to scenes and you see now we have a 1 folder. We have now the examples from week 1. One was like examples of creating immersion. For example, just looking at a 2D video as opposed to a 3D image as opposed to a 360 image. Where the examples on immersion, I also included like this mysterious object that I showed in class that makes sound. And so you can have access to these. I'm gonna go and get the week 2 examples, which include, I call it basics, come with a few more animations. Some of the things at this point we already have in the project, so they won't be re-imported. Yeah, so the what the player camera, how that actually works, the prefab that we just created. So I'm just gonna make sure that we understand that. So you can always double click a prefab, which opens it kind of like a scene, but you can go back to the scene, but double clicking a prefab is really editing the prefab. And this prefab comes with scripts that I have written so that you can walk at a certain speed and you can say even fly around if you wanted to. So I'm going to open my new scene example just one more time just to show you this. So new scene was this one here. And so the player camera has a few features. You can walk around, as I said. I'm just gonna go like this so you can see me a little bit better. And we can also fly. So if we go to the player camera, we can move a little bit faster if you wanted to, or let's move more slowly, and we can fly. And now we can really fly into the air. We can also, of course, increase the speed, so we'd be like faster if you wanted to create a faster scene. Just have to find the plane again, so I'm looking down. And yeah, we're using the right mouse button for look controls and the acceleration. It's kind of like works for me. If it's a little fast for you, you could like put this down to 0.6 and then it'll move a bit slower or faster depending on what you like. But I think I left it at 1.1. And you can always look at how I implemented the scripts, of course. This one is using the input system with these abstractions that are there, and implements also mouse acceleration in a very simple way. It's nothing too fancy, but okay, so we have that now. So let's look at the basics. So in week 2, we had like transforms, and we should import the text mesh pro stuff so you can actually start seeing the text. It will start to render for you in the scene. This one renders, supposed to render things for each of the cubes. Why this doesn't work here, I don't know exactly. Now it does it. It's supposed to do this in the editor. Yeah, I guess it renders it now. It didn't render it before. Fine. And then we have a camera scene that just explains how the camera works, which is essentially with this prefab guy. Same example, but you can run around. So anyway, this was week 1 on material. I do want to show you this scene. So this scene could be your 3D scene right now. And I have like a lot of stuff going on in this scene now. I improved it a little bit. We have like a walking Elvis, we have a dancing Elvis, and we have a flying Elvis that actually floats a little bit in the air. We also have like a really nice material spinning kind of like sphere there. And I made it so that you can fly around in the scene and have a little bit of fun. This Elvis and this Elvis, they both use animations that are part of the model. They came from Mixamo. This flying Elvis also has a flying animation, but I also gave it an additional animation using a script. So this is flying Elvis on the right, and I gave it a floating animation using a script, which I can disable, and then he's like really just like stuck in the air. And with floating, he actually moves a little bit more random. And we can also increase that. And so now you fly a little bit more probably fly quite a bit now, and it's something I've been playing with. So this is these are all implicit interactions examples. Nothing here in this scene can be is explicit interactions, but we have a bunch of implicit interactions using nobody's using timeline animation. Actually, Elvis walk might be it's a timeline animation. So this one is model built-in animation, model built-in animation, and scripted animation for floating. This one is no, well, it has like an animation clip in there that I loaded from the model, and then it walks actually. So I'm gonna run the scene one more time. We can probably also have him walk all the time. We can look at this in a second. I'm a bit slow. So he kind of like walks around like the boardwalk and turns around and looks kind of like interesting. So again, these models are not from me, and the animations are also not from me of these guys, except the scripted one and the scripted one here. And for the catwalk Elvis, we have let me just like, these are prefabs. We have an animator that has the catwalk script, and that is a motion clip that is built into the rigged model that I downloaded from Mixamo. So I have like one flying, one with a chicken dance, and one with a catwalk that has the catwalk animation. And I'm trying to see for the animator how we could actually do that it loops, because I mean that is actually, I think, used to be a scale factor. No, I need to go to the animations catwalk, and it's here, and speed. I don't see the loop motion time. I would need to look into this. Anyway, don't know exactly how to get it to repeat right now. Yeah, I don't really do enough with the animation timeline. So we're gonna go to the more interesting examples, which is the examples from week 3. So week 3 gives us quite a few more things, comes with a bunch of scenes, more scripts, and all of them are, I mean, I try to make it a bit organized. Week 2 also had my my Earthrise example. I mean, that was the idea, but I don't actually see it. Yeah, the Earthrise example is a separate package. I'm just reusing the same material in the scene that has the building blocks. It's like in here, this one that has building blocks. This is a VR scene, which I think I mentioned in class and showed very briefly, but not in VR. But basically, you can grab this using a distance grab building block, and we have a VR camera rig building block as well. So anyway, the interactions examples come in implicit and explicit. So here we have the animation one, which has these 2 cubes falling down. So when you launch this, they will fall down, and it actually still complains here that there is an object reference that is set to an instance null reference, but like it says this is actually not in my script, so we can probably ignore this right now. But let's see when this actually appears. So, but this script, this example worked. This one is using physics, so this one is gonna fall down and then has a little bit of bounciness and yeah, falls down. Particle system, it's gonna rain cubes, and I explained in class this is the most performant version of having lots of objects fall from the sky. So these are implicit interactions. Explicit, we have the example where I press the buttons in front of me to change the color of this cube into red and blue. This is a 2D menu, and I explained the example in detail in a separate video that you can find in the slides. This one is hover and click, and it changes the materials, doesn't do anything else. But that can be useful for explicit interactions, like if you wanted somebody to select something. I just implemented the feedback. You can, of course, then also have like some functionality here. You can choose between this or that cube, and the point of this example was to really show how it's done with raycasts. And I'm going to show it one more time because it is interesting to see how it shoots like the raycasts into the scene depending on where I hit. If I hit in the middle, then it doesn't hit any object. If I hit on the right, it hits that cube. It's done with raycasts. Again, this example is explained in detail on its own thing. I also have proxy interactions like this one where you click this to bring this on and switch it off. So switch on, switch off. This can be maybe adapted in some of your examples. I also had this one, which is proxy based. I'm just making sure that my examples now actually run in a new project. So that's why I'm doing this. The reason why this sometimes appears and disappears is because it's really based on the capsule hitting the object, like intersecting with the object. And I explained that also in detail. And I suggested, for example, to increase the player capsule mesh. So the not the mesh, but the collider around it. We could increase that to 2, and then we don't actually really have to pay too much attention. And maybe that's the better way to do it. But maybe 1.5 or 1.2 would be sufficient. So if you don't have to pay too much attention, you can actually still look down mostly. Anyway, so that's that example. And we have collision and we have the spawn. This spawn one is, I didn't really make it an explicit request, but it's an explicit interaction, clicking, that launches a cube and brings it in. And this one, these cubes are prefabs. So that's why it's actually a cool example, because you can see how you can build a bit more complex scene using prefabs that I spawn now in the spawn script and in the spawn sample scene. And I spawn them within the anchor, and I can move the anchor if I wanted to have them come from somewhere else. I could move that anchor somewhere else as well. And yeah, again, so we got them all to work, and I hope they are providing a useful starting point for the things that you are going to implement in your assignments.